as foreshadowing also the first game, we get to see the city of Minas Ithil, which is at the south region of Mordor. Don't worry, all in due time on where precisely it is.
I'm assuming this is like a twin city to Minas Tirith.
Yes, well, in general, you have to remember, with a lot of the cities that Mordor occupies were, cities of Gondor that, were taken over. Like Kiritungur, for example, was also a Gondorian fortress.
So it's up to us, one knightly boy, to stop the last city from falling.
No pressure.
You must do it to prevent a time paradox.
And we have a title now.
Huh.
I know that the previous one was the prologue, but putting it, after the Act 1, I think you should have done just before that, but...
I guess the idea is that now...
This also starts a minor meme. The city of Minas Ithil possesses a Palantir. If you forgot, basically a crystal ball in the Middle-earth universe, Celebrimbor is obsessed in getting that, so don't start a drinking game every time he mentions the word Palantir, because you'll probably be dead before Act 1 ends. So this serves also as your... it's also your tutorial towards, the basic stuff, like, killing a captain, their different abilities due to the Nemesis system and everything. Also, just to notice, it's also the way Aristan Duncan pronounces the word. It's not just Palantir, it's a Palantea. I don't know what kind of accent is he doing. Unfortunately, we don't have the branding ability at the moment because we are being weakened, but we still can interrogate worms in order to gain information about captains. Like I said, the Nemesis system returns in full force because now we have even more ways an orca can be customized. Now they can be not just with appearance, but they are also attached to a particular tribe from a selection that they can be. So an orca can potentially be an assassin, but also be attached to a tribe of orcs who prefers, poison, or one that instead prefers riches and materialism. And those will affect both the appearance and the personality.
So can it be like if they see some treasure chest or currency about, they'll be distracted by that?
Not necessarily, but instead it also defines their characters. Like, for example, they would be adorned, for example, with more ornate armor, and maybe they will have a trait that reflects that, like, for example, be immune to arrows because they have so much armor, for example.
This video game seems like it would be a role player's wonderland.
Basically. Also, I noticed, don't think I didn't notice you, I said the last game, no pissing. Jesus.
What a great means to add to the lore and immersion of this world. People piss just like people in real life.
But yeah, yes, sir?
Looking at more closely, I am genuinely wondering if the character design of Final Fantasy 16 played this game, because this guy's design is very similar to how Clive looks. Like his sword hilt in the back. The color scheme is also similar.
Judging from fan arts, I'm more instead in agreement that is a Rule 63 version of the protagonist of Tales of Berseria.
Wait, but his clothes are intact.
But the color scheme is basically the same, including the hairdo, and a bit of a personality to boot.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, basically
about
both
a pirate captain translated into a medieval tale.
Yeah, basically both Velvet and Clive are some of the most suffering, two of the most suffering JRPG protags ever.
So this guy has arachnophobia.
Well, yes. Yes, this can be actually one of their weaknesses. Again, the weakness is also revamped a bit in order to customize. Like I said, well, you don't have the branding at the moment, so every time you perform the move about branding, the orcs are automatically killed instead. But the good news is that you can have a bonus attached to it, like replenishing your health shot instead. So you can still gain something, like even a piece of your health.
I noticed though, that detail seems to hint that we might get different mobs that can go against each other, since this guy's apparently afraid of spiders.
Potentially, because spiders can be a potential, environmental damage that you can inflict. Also, if you notice now that I can show you, the map is instead replaced from a 2D plane to a 3D diorama model. And thankfully, I was afraid at first because a lot of times games that do that are very difficult to navigate, but this one actually works just fine. I don't know what kind of black magic they did to make it work. But also, what you notice, Jova, is also, spot on. A lot of orcs will also have a very unique trait. So, like, for example, one will be covered, in maggot holes, we call it that. One will instead be one with the spiders and be adorned with webs instead, You will see an example towards the end of this part, so don't worry about that. But like I said, I'm pretty confident that I made sure to give you plenty of variety to see.
Oh, so they're calling us the Grave Walker now.
That's one, remember, even in the first game, that's one of Talion's titles. He has actually a couple, like the Tark, which is more of a derogatory for human, I
never recalled the Grave Walker one coming.
It was mentioned briefly first time during the questline with the guy voiced by Travis Willingham.
That was a while back. I wonder if Grave Walker is going to be the one they mainly go with in the sequel.
Well, again, they alternate between Grave Walker, Tark, and Ranger.
Okay.
Bright Lord only in the case of your brand, but we're far away from that. So let's do some detective work. This is a bit similar to Witcher 3, and like that is a bit oversimplified in terms of hunting. Just discover a set of footprints and then follow the breadcrumbs trails to your destination. Again, I don't mind for this game, a bit less for Witcher 3, but it's a story for another time. Also, another thing, you cannot immediately detonate the bonfire with arrows. You need to perform a special move for the time being, and if you want to perform it like in the previous game from a distance, you have to actually acquire one of their perks via leveling up. I will talk about the leveling up system, as it is more relevant later. For the time being, we just need to reach one of the captains, which conveniently leads us into the city as it's besieged. You may also notice that activating the Wraith mode, doesn't obscure anymore the rest of the world, but still allows us some degree of visibility.
So, Tio. Obvious elephant in the room aside, would you say the story is overall an improvement in this game over the original?
In a lot of aspects, yes. But I would like to warn you, the way it ends, may actually make you split in terms of your opinion. So it's more of a case of how does this align with the rest of the Tolkien's books.
Right, yeah, I've done some non-spoilery research. Apparently, some of the controversies were the fact that, despite how some felt, apparently this game was deemed canon, and apparently the developers
I don't know about the marketing, so I cannot tell if the developers decided to just say, oh no, it's totally canon, guys. Because the elements that they provide definitely seems to, be very unsubtle about the divergence.
To keep myself from getting spoiled, I haven't looked, but I have divulged that at least in regard, there was apparently something in regard to Shelob's involvement in the story that the developers had to explain. Again, I didn't look into the details because,
it's more about I don't want to spoil myself. The transformation into humans and giving predictions. Like, these are not things that Shelob actively does in the books, but because of their power, it's something that logically the character will be able to do. Yes, Glibs?
Do we know if we're getting like a third one of these at some point?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
He's asking if we're getting a third one of these.
Oh, for the time being, definitely not. I can tell you that while the story is conclusive, one of the DLC does end with a bit of a sequel bait. But so far the developers are content in just doing the Wonder Woman video game. And I can tell you that because probably of the debacle that that Warner Bros. Had with the Tolkien estate until this point with the Ingracer group. They probably just, did not devolve too much attention to lowering stuff.
Well, it sounds like it still has a better shot of occurring than a new game from the company that gave us the Gollum game, since apparently that company has recently shuttered.
Well, again, mostly the development team. The one that is publishing just does what they've been always doing, like, with the Talion games. Anyway, you notice that we received some help with one of the warriors captains of the city. Because remember, this city is still in the hand of Gondor, so... And yes, now it's the entire new thing. Instead of runes, now we have an entire set of gears that we can acquire, as in weapons and armors. Sword, dagger, bow and arrow, essentially, armor, cape for stealth, and later on runes. A rune to when story demands something specific about it. Like I said, your starting equipment, the one that Talion had, which is apparently not refined like it was at the end of a previous game. Oops. Is indestructible. So you cannot actually destroy it for the currency, but you need to potentially power up also the gear. So don't worry, you will not be able to lose that. But the new stuff that you acquire can potentially be, trashed for being sold. Hold on.
Hello there.
She joined us in the fight.
Yep. She mentioned avenging her brothers.
How many of you were there?
Not enough.
Well, I'm here now.
To lose the Middle City Ranger. We'll be closing
So what's
the
this
gate
character's
behind
name?
Ithil. She will present herself properly later,
them.
don't
We need to
worry.
get there as fast as we can.
I'll be right behind you.
Like a shadow.
Nicole Tompkins is her VA.
Hey, just checking.
There we
You're
go.
not also...
Idril, don't fall behind.
Just checking. You're not also a spider in disguise, are you? Gotta be careful about those nowadays.
You're not Peter
She's
Parker.
the most
Todd.
she's the most recent voice of Jill Valentine.
Do you hear that, Ranger?
Huh.
They're closing the gate.
Alright.
So did she voice the? I'm guessing she voiced the character in Ultimate Marvel 3 because she was the same voice actress as in Resident Evil 5.
She was in Resistance, the
Alright, the movie.
remake of Resi 3.
Right, the remake. I thought about the.
And
God.
and there's that Death Island movie coming out soon.
Yeah, it's about to come out. No, I got mistaken. Anyway, what you need to do is to follow Ithil. Sorry, you have to follow Ithil while rescuing the other, lieutenants of the city, so you can, rendezvous at the inner part of it.
And I see we have more NPCs helping us out in the fight.
Yes,
That's
like I said,
nice.
things have escalated, and also like I said, this game was developed squarely for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, so it can have boast a bit more powerhouse. Mind you, we did have different NPCs with the slaves in the previous game, but you can tell that they tried to create a bit more set pieces, and game moments to integrate story. But like I said, I commend the developers for integrated story and gameplay in a more direct level, instead of having all of it being a cutscene or you having to follow slowly, Idris through location, which by the way, those segments that you were following an NPC slowly, completely gone. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, this definitely seems like a game well oriented for you in regards to issues you have with the original.
Okay, not so much issues, but more like, things that I think could have been ironed out, and, again, like in the true sequel. Again, this is basically the Arkham... Imagine if we had Arkham Asylum and we jumped immediately to Arkham Knight in terms of gameplay, mind you.
Really? I mean, I thought you were gonna say Dark City because, even City was a massive improvement over an already
By the way,
good formula.
I will mention when it becomes important that the gameplay has been refined, so it's slightly different from being a copy clone of the Arkham games. We will get some cheeky, shout outs to that as the game progresses, more like in a sense of, oh, that's cute, they did something similar to that without copying too much. I will also say, like I hinted in the previous game, that the composers, which are basically the same from the first game, now try to have a score that more resembles the one of the movies, you know, so at the very least... Yes, sir?
They finished first.
So again, I'm also grateful to that because it gets more memorable. We will even get a ballad as the credit for the credit song, you know, similar to the one of the movies.
So it's basically Gary Shyman doing a Howard Shore impression. I mean, I have heard his score for Bioshock Infinite, and that's okay. I won't say it's I would say it's a lot more it's a more light-hearted score than I would have thought for a game like that.
Well, sometimes he tries to do the whole violin string to represent shock moments in that game. He does that a lot if you actually play it. But otherwise, it's perfectly there. I wonder if he did compose that Barbershop Quartet song that you get at the beginning.
Possibly. I mean, it certainly looks a lot more, for lack of a better... The game certainly looks a lot more, for lack of a better term, slightly more of a colour palette than the last game.
Yeah, there's a bit more balance, I can tell you that.
It's like the stylistic shift between how Dark Amazing Spider-Man 1 looked to how colourful 2 looked.
Also, no drips, the guy on the right was not Mark Strong. Anyway, new attack. If you hold the square button, Talion or Celebrimbor will summon essentially a phantom glaive, elven glaive, to which you can literally swoop the enemies around you. I'm not 100% behind this because it takes a bit of time to actually charge the attack, and doing this you can easily be falling prey. So I kind of wish there was a way to optimize it a bit, like maybe it's a more instant, get a perk that makes it more instantaneous but you do less damage in return, something like that, I don't know. But yeah, again, Talion didn't need a gate, he can just climb the walls anyway. Anyway, this is the regent of the city, Castamir.
Oh yeah, he totally doesn't look like a guy who would betray anyone.
We make them pay for every inch of ground, but they now hold it.
Jova, what have I told you before? You can't judge someone's betrayal rate based on how they look.
And yes, he's also voiced by Travis Willingham.
I can't help but find it funny that you're the one lecturing that glib, seeing as how that's usually your gimmick.
But some things we lost forever.
Nah, I've
Also,
never been that person.
I have to say,
that's...
it's similar to the Gears of War game. Why would anyone want to try to betray the human race to the orcs for a situation like this?
Besides, Jova, I'm the one that also said you can't necessarily judge someone for being evil if they have a funny sounding name.
Also, yeah, so via this exposition-esque dialogue, we get to learn that Ithil is Castamir's daughter, and, you know, and he's doing a bit kind of like Theoden towards Eowyn in the Two Towers and Return of the King, but it's a bit better. It's more of a case of this game understands the necessity that everyone needs to get a sword, and even if Castamir gets a bit grumpy and everything, you know, allows Ithil to fight, and she's perfectly capable.
I mean, at most,
parallels.
Hi, I just showed up out of nowhere.
So far, at most, he just looks like a typical grumpy general guy.
If you've come to fight for Minas Ithil,
Being the regent of the city, is also the one with more direct access to the Palantir, but is not that willing to give it away.
I will say this, maybe they made his design as to be like, you know, kind of like, you know, going against the trend. But again, I noticed that in a lot of medieval tales, like people who have those kind of designs with the flat top hair and the beard kind of end up being like treacherous uncles. Granted, he's Idril's dad, so I guess that's already bucking the trend.
Also, it's funny you mentioned about, you know, breaking a bit the designs, because we're gonna have a case as the party is going on.
Okay.
There you go, now we see we are leveled up, we can actually invest in one of our skills. So these are very different from the previous game. Now you have a core skill that you can unlock, and after that you can select the perks that are, you know, that are on its right. Unfortunately, you can choose only one at a time, so you cannot be completely overpowered as you think it would. They still give you a lot of power, mind you. But anyway, Celebrimbor now offers the equivalent of the towers of the first game. Mini towers, to which Sauron's eye, which I had to warn you already, is not yet present because Sauron can still be tangible around this time. Still rules in a minor capacity, but it's just enough so that Celebrimbor can corrupt them towards our favor. And using those, we should be able to spot points of interest. Again, it's an interesting idea, take on the Ubisoft Tower formula. You still have to climb it, you still have to conquer it, but instead of, being a case of, the moment you get there, everything is unlocked, you need to essentially, take control of that, point the eye towards the direction as you will see, and you can unlock through that. And aside from this first example, every subsequent tower that you can unlock makes this optional. If you don't want to have everything marked on your map because you think it's too easy, you don't want the GPS, you can do that if you want. Well, that's pretty actually cool.
So, is the overall idea that basically the bulk of the game is going to be taking place in this overall area, hence the map expanding outward from it?
This is just the beginning, Jovan. The game is actually bigger than the previous one, so it allows a bunch of different regions, not as big as they were, the equivalent. Think of it, so each region is 2/3 big of one that was in the previous game, but there are more of them. So it's more of a case of, different areas, each with their own particular themes that you can, go around in and see. There we go. There you go. This is also mentioned what you already need to know. The fact that when you're killed, the enemy that killed you will be promoted if they were nobody, or will climb the ranks if they were already known as a captain. The thing that I didn't mention is that this game has online functionality, which is still active at the time we're recording this. Where, for example, if you get killed, a notification will be sent online in general, and anyone at any moment can potentially receive a notification towards you and avenge you. And they will get perks based on that.
Interesting. Again, this is how games should do it. Yes, online functionality does add a bonus, but it's not uber required to the point where the game can't function without it.
We will get to that also in a second, Drova. Well, not in a second, but in a couple of parts.
Is it like how in Persona 5 it gives you technically a bit of help deciding what to do, but you don't need it?
Kinda, in a way. There you go. Now we're literally controlling the eye, and we're spying on different parts of the city with, a couple of icons telling us how much there is to show.
So as we can use our own eye of sorts.
Basically, a set of them. For the sake of, because actually there is banter attached to that, I will show most of the secondary stuff in all their entirety. We will have, once again, a dedicated part about the artifacts, but it's not just the one thing that you can get. You may notice the spider icon. That's a fragment of Shelob's memory, which will tell us, when collected all, basically what's the deal with her and what's, her story, and another thing, that diverges with the canon, as you know. Another thing that...
So, again, I guess that Shelob is going to be a big deal in the story. I mean, granted, of course, she has the ring and sorts, but...
Yeah, we haven't seen the last of her, don't worry.
From what I can understand, it seems like she's a major player in the game. Like,
yes, to an extent. Again, you will see. We also unlocked some Shadow of the Past missions. These are missions that, similar to the DLC of the Bright Lord, they make us take control of Celebrimbor while he was still alive to perform a particular feat that he did in the past. While Celebrimbor basically grows and says, "Oh, my dick was so big because I did all of this stuff." Essentially they are treated like in your typical like time trial kind of like mode, in a sense, but you have different objectives, and when you fulfill all three of them, you get different ranking: bronze, silver, and gold. And if you essentially, depending on which you get different rewards, like massive experience points, or for example, a perk, or a gear, an extra gear. The game essentially, encourages you to get the best ranks in all of them, for an easier work.
So something like, say, yes, back in my youth, I took out 50 orcs in 50 seconds.
Basically, it's essentially kind of like that. And you will see actually, I think, one example in this very part, if not till later. But they are a bit kind of endearing because instead of actually being a case of, oh, back in my day and you just see a cutscene of that, you have to do that in game. You know, you have to prove the worth. So there is it is a chance of, you know, you gloat because you basically earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
So-
a couple of other things that you noticed that we will be, you know, very important as the game progresses. Minas Ithil area also does possess an arena, a Colosseum of sorts, which will be important story-wise, but also important for the gameplay as it goes on. And the fact that it hosts a fortress, which, don't worry, again, for that it's firmly occupied by humans, so our goal is to avoid the fact that it gets captured, you know, story-wise. But those elements will be important also for the story as it goes on. Alright, let's see. But yeah, like I said, all of this combines also with the more refined Nemesis system, and you have an almost unpredictable kind of experience to the point where, while it's inevitable that because of RNG, you know, two players who might get, you know, similar encounters just in different parts of the game, virtually there would be no two, you know, experiences that are completely alike. You will always get a different randomized orcs, you know, that are, you know, different from each tribe and or have particular gimmicks towards them. And you even they even did added 2 entire different tribe sets also in addition as DLCs if you want. And if you get a season pass, you get them automatically, so they will show up here also in our run as well. So don't worry about that. But again, arguably you don't even need them. You know, you're not really eager to need them because the game already provides different examples. You're just even, you know, increasing your chances. Yes, you can argue this is Warner Bros. Being greedy. Make an argument to say that it's Warner Bros. Being greedy and wanted to, you know, hold part of the game behind, you know, DLC. And there is a good case to mention that also as the game will go on. But I do wonder if it's more of a case of a publisher rather than developers in this case.
Are we talking like... I'm sorry.
You will see, Jova. So rather than telling you immediately the example, it will be make more sense when we get to that. But also
That's
to mention,
fair.
The one thing that changed, for example, for the gameplay is that now instead of doing the same thing that the Batman Arkham game do, as in after you get the 8 combat, you know, combo meter, you can perform a special action. Now you feel a meter depending on, you know, the hit that you perform, regardless of the combo meter that you do. So you can essentially more balance towards the rhythm of the game instead of being, you know, tied to the same system. Anyway, there you go. In this fortress mode, you get to see, you know, which all the, you know, the ruler of the fortress and all the different lieutenants that occupy the spots, including, for example, Mark Strong here.
I wonder, can these also be affected by our gameplay?
Yes, but again, for the time being, for this first act, first section of the game, we don't really need it because this fortress is safely in the hands of humans and will be held down.
I wonder if this is going to be a case with each region where, of course, we have the bad guys' ranks, but then we also have the good guys' ranks to also tinker with.
Okay, that not really. This serves actually basically to tell us how things are doing, but every other fortress in the game will essentially be occupied by orcs, and it will be our job to actually conquer them. It's not really a spoiler, I can tell you, because this was heavily advertised in the game anyway, the game marketing.
So it's more so just this one time where we have the human ring.
Yes, again, it's a case of introducing you to the concept as well. Oh, more on this guy later.
Wait, a bard?
Again, more on this guy later.
Oh, I have gotta see this. A bard in Lord of the Rings. And supposedly an enemy one at that.
There you go. The only thing that I will not show that much is getting the Ithil rooms, because neither Talion nor Celebrimbor offer too much of a commentary about it. But they will be useful for what you do at the end of that. So I will do showcase what you do with the Ithil words.
It mentions a legendary treasure.
Oh shit.
Still my beating heart.
And I shall consume you.
Okay, I'm gonna admit
that voice
did
does not fit that guy.
face.
Sorry?
That voice did not fit that face. Like,
Yeah, that sounds like someone half his size.
it sounds like somebody who's at the office, not a flipping orc.
Or somebody that thinks that all people that look strong sound like Mike Tyson or something.
I don't know, it's still kind of funny fun. But, like
Oh,
you
it's
said...
not a bad voice, it's just, it's such a weird one for an orc. Like, it
Like you
sounds
said,
awfully
the-
civilized.
Like I said, the Nemesis system is even more ruthless in this game. It depends also on what the difficulty you put in the game, which means you can get ambushed at any instant. You know.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that guy that sounded a bit high pitched for an orc. The one that said, "Why can't we have some meat?" But at least he looked, for lack of a better term, scrawny enough to fit.
This is literally his character. This guy loves to eat. And like I said, this is actually one of the two DLC tribes, the Slaughter tribe, which is all about, butchering and eating their victims.
Huh. I'll admit, the way the DLC trial is inserted is very fluid and like.
There are other DLCs that are more straightforward, like, 2 campaigns, like the previous game. But essentially, this one is more of a case of he integrates that with the Nemesis system, instead of being separated.
I do like how seamless it is, though, in the sense like, well, if you didn't know better, you could easily just assume it's a part of the main game.
Forza Trial makes it sound like a really gritty Ace Attorney reboot, where the trials are like every witness that's proven to be a liar just gets shot and killed then and there.
Also, once again, you have to pay attention to the way an orc captain is killed, because depending on how they're killed, if there is a chance that they can come back, yes, that can happen very easily.
Someone's dick off, and
their model and being will be adjusted accordingly. You cut off their hand, they will have a prosthetic. You cut off, the part of their face, they will be bandaged. You cut off their head, they will have stitches on their neck. You burn them, completely carbonized.
So, what sort of deaths are permanent?
You have to hope that decapitation sticks.
that sounds a bit silly.
Anyway, don't worry, Dweebs. In due time, you will see examples of that. Anyway, let's try one of these Shadows of the Past missions.
Alright then.
For the time being, also, we need to actually find the barrow. The barrow is a location that in each map is present, which is essentially a crypt that was sealed perfectly by Celebrimbor, so no one actually managed to find it until now. That will contain all the missions of the past that you complete, so you can replay them easily by getting to this location instead of being scattered throughout the place, the map. And your reward for having collected all the Ithil Din. There you go. You access by, entering Wraith mode, and at that point, the rock will actually open up to reveal the crypt.
So, what do you think of Celebrimbor's different ghost design for this as
I
opposed
don't think
to the
it's
first?
too different.
He's definitely noticeably more looking like a living skeleton as opposed to just more alive.
I wonder if they did
obvious
it.
gray markings.
I wonder if this is for the fact that infused a lot of his essence in the ring, so maybe it's a bit drained. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yes. With it, I forged an army. I led the charge against Sauron.
I remember we were there for the DLC.
Well, these are thankfully different, in terms of what you do, instead of just being a carbon copy of what the DLC was.
Granted, even without the DLC, I believe we did see a cutscene of him leading the charge, but
Yeah,
then
so
the
that
ring
cutscene
getting
was
slipped
there.
off his
This is
finger.
more of a case of the missions will be different, because, it would be in locations that were not in the first game.
Again,
This also allows her to unlock a particular skill, which is the Elven Rage. You played the God of War games of any kind, it's basically that. Press R3 plus L3 to essentially get into hyper mode. Only in this case, I argue it's a bit more overpowered than involves because it literally, potentially insta-kills everything and can potentially destroy a captain in seconds.
But wait, hold on. The DLC said that it was a red scale background, but it looks all colorful and light here.
Not just colorful, yes, but the thing, in order to represent that this is the past, someone decided to smear Vaseline on the camera, and sometimes it gets a bit distracting.
Yeah.
Why do games do that?
Like,
I guess it's to show that it's in
I
the
can understand
past.
this is the past. I'm not, I don't think conveyed visually is a priority that much. I don't know.
I mean,
Is there a way to...
What's wrong with it being in black and white?
That would be a possibility, or do something like a grainy effect, akin to the Akira Kurosawa mode for Ghost of Tsushima, for example. I don't know. I think there are better tricks than just, make the edges blurry.
I noticed that they also touched up Celebrimbor's Alive design in the color scheme.
Also,
it's also a bit more colorful.
Does the game do like when the controller vibrates? Does the vibration do like a fast-paced heartbeat one on your controller if you're low on health?
No. Okay. It doesn't do that because I checked even the settings for vibration. It doesn't really do that. You have to remember this was a year before they tried to do experiment a bit with the DualSense. But yeah, this essentially is to teach you both the mechanical behavior and rage and what the Shadows of the Past missions will be. Essentially feats that Celebrimbor accomplished, and in this case it's just giving us a reminder what his fight against Sauron happened.
I was totally kicking Sauron's ass until, that happened.
He did a cheap shot.
Sauron and cheap shots. Wow, what a breaking news story.
It's like he's the bad guy or something.
Well, I mean, good guys could do cheap shots too.
Well, lacking cleverness and being more cheap shots.
Ah, sure. So when it's the good guy doing it, it's clever, but when it's the bad guy, they're cheating.
Sauron's like, fuck this shit, I'm out of these double standards.
Alright then, so, what next?
Alright, like I said, the borrow will actually be useful for when we complete the Ithil Din, which I think I will do in the meantime, but I will show you the result in a second. And there you go. And completing all of the mission, of Shadow of the Past also gives us different kind of rewards, which we'll see towards the end of the game, because of course this is a kind of side-based expense for the entirety of the game.
Okay, I swear, in Lord of the Rings, the titular ring gets lost a lot.
What prompted you to say that?
No, it's like they lost the ring. I'm like, people lose rings.
Well, this
a lot
is not
in
the
this
same one,
franchise.
and it's more of a case of lost being in the hands of someone or being actually, physically lost. Anyway, what you do with Ithil this time, instead of, composing a poem, well, okay, I will show you later, but for the time being, let me show you instead what you get when you collect one of the memories of Shelob. Shelob will tell you about her story without subtitles for some reason. And you have to recompose a picture that's fragmented like this. It's a sort of an MC Escher perspective thing, where you need to, compose a rectangle, basing yourself on the fragments. It's pretty cool, actually. Like so. And it gives us a still frame that moves a bit back and forward. Once we collect it all, we will see the cutscene in its entirety.
So basically, she's got like one cutscene that shows her whole backstory.
Yes. And a lot of them will also give us a particular perk where we can, summon a bunch of spiders to confuse the enemy.
Not the masks she wears.
Neat.
Remember this, Talion.
Oh, come on. It's not like Talion is, like, seduced by her.
So what else does she do with the masks, then?
It's the point of a mask.
Okay, when did the pickup truck get in here?
It's a Taco Bell truck.
Oh, good lord. Now we are doomed. But yeah, okay.
I've actually tried the Taco Bell recently since one opened right near me. They're not that bad, actually.
Glad that my country doesn't have them.
Shelob and Sauron.
Again,
Wait.
this is just giving you snippets of that.
This is weird, because if I recall correctly in the book, Sauron thinks of Shelob as more like his own personal pet.
Again, only do time. For now, let's collect all that we can.
Oh, so just like Shelob have several of these in each region and like, you know...
Yes, again,
Okay.
similar to the other, side content, this will span through the entirety of the game.
Feeds a hunger that is insatiable.
We were talking about vibration waves. The controller vibrates more and more the closer you get to the correct alignment. So again, in this case, it's also rewarding you on a physical level rather than just on only visual.
Hey, Tio, if this were just 7th gen, you just know these would have been controlled with the 6-axis.
Well, okay, let's be fair also. If it was done for the PS5, we would have used the DualSense in a better capacity to convey, the vibration.
Well, yeah, I mean, the DualSense actually works if it's motion control, from what I can understand.
Alright, once you get all the Ithil in, instead of just composing that mural that we got at the end of the previous game, which it's a mural and everything, in here you have to use the words that you collected as Ithil din to compose a poem. And this first one is the one also that describes Mordor, that is, word for word, the one in the book. So it's pretty actually cool. And again, sorry, go on.
So the developers definitely did do the research in regards to the lore.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can tell you. TV Tropes also mentioned, again, it's spoiler, it's a way to discuss better at the end of the game. But TV Tropes actually makes a good argument for a change, that a lot of the themes in this game parallels ones that happen, in the books themselves. So, if anything, it's actually very respectful towards source material. It's just that some of the decisions that they do feel weird, in how they're performed. But again, all in due time. Let's enjoy the game one piece at a time.
I will just ask though, are there any uber weird things outside of anything having to do with Shelob in this game?
Absolutely, yes.
So Shelob's not like, the main culprit.
Oh, no. And yes, every time you compose the poem, Celebrimbor recites it as you enter. After all, he designed these things. And inside that, you get one piece of gear that's attached to his old armor, the Bright Lord's armor.
And let me guess, the more we progress in the game, the more we'll get armor that looks like Celebrimbor's from the past.
Yeah, both his armor and his weapons, just obviously for the armor and weapons, not also physically. In order to legendary and epic gear, in order to actually be leveled up, they will need to meet a specific condition, a challenge that needs to be, completed before you can do that. But those are, relatively easy, and the benefit of that is that, similar to games like, say, Fortnite, for lack of a better term, if you collect a set of them, you unlock also extra specific perk that you do, like, for example, replenishing your Elven Shot, for a specific, if you perform a specific occasion. They make your life easier, as you say. But before we end the part, we have this. Oh no.
You may have heard of one like me. It prances, dances, and sings with glee. Wherever there's strife, the singer is there. He slaughters and slays with such merry flair. I sing these songs.
Maybe not all the orcs are so bad.
I'm gonna shove that thing up your ass. Oh, fuck me. Yes, that's also this drawback. You can get ambushed on top of another ambush.
Wait.
And
so
yes,
the guy's
this guy's
literally
trying to...
attacking you with his guitar.
His guitar doubles as an axe, which means he's about to El Caboning me. No thank you.
Ow.
And yes, it even does a twang every time he parries an attack.
How did he rise so high up the range? Was it just that nobody expected they would be killed by a musician?
No fucking idea. The other guy is a tracker. As Celebrimbor will explain after we finish this part, he's the orc equivalent of a ranger. A guy that, as soon as you're in his range of area, will make a beeline towards you because they can spot you even if they don't have visible contact. They just sneak you out, essentially.
So these bard orcs, do they have any special gimmicks like they can rouse enemies with singing?
We're just quirky in terms of personality.
I really would like to have a conversation with the people who made this game, because, don't get me wrong,
I can tell you this because it's gonna be a recurring thing. One of the big makers of the first game, which sadly passed away while this was in development, Michael Fogley, He was also an accomplished musician, guitar player. So I think they created the class also to be a sort of a, there you go, get headshot.
I love how he sings everything, even when he dies.
That gets better, Jova. When you select him on the army map, he hums instead of just saying anything.
Oh, I can only imagine what he sings when or if he comes back to life.
Don't worry, Jova. We will get another case before the game is over. But so I get the suspicion that they created the whole bar thing as a tribute to him. He also had a more direct tribute, but I will have to discuss this in a few parts because unfortunately I was not able to trigger that for this run.
So stuff like the Bard Orc, is that like, just that one specific orc, or is like the Bard like a form of class of...
A form of class, but you have to consider that it's very rare. Something that you don't have a common chance to unlock or see for the Nemesis system. It's just something. It's like I said. It's a unique variety that can recur multiple times, but not as common as say other captains.
Again, like I said in the previous game, I dig us getting to see more layers to the orcs rather than just bloodthirsty killers.
Mordor's equivalent. Subtract your years of training and substitute feral cunning instead.
I guess that's the same thing. I don't know.
That might have been the closest thing to a compliment he's given, Talion.
Anyway, join us in the next part where we continue to defend Minas Ithil from the assault. Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.